Right now, in the middle of downtown Los Angeles, directly across the street from one of the most famous sports arenas in America, three skyscrapers are standing half-finished, covered floor to ceiling in graffiti. And nobody, not the city, not the courts, not the billion-dollar company that started them, can agree on what to do about them. That's just number one on this list, because California is hiding abandoned places with stories so strange, so dark, and so genuinely hard to believe that most people drive right past them without ever knowing what happened there. We're talking about a sea that Frank Sinatra once sailed on that is now the biggest man-made source of toxic dust in the entire United States. A chain of islands just 30 miles from San Francisco that the U.S. military secretly used as a nuclear waste dump for 25 years, and a ghost town so cursed that people mail their stolen souvenirs back just to make the bad luck stop. These are 7 of the most abandoned places in California, and I promise you, you have not heard these stories. Entry 1. Oceanwide Plaza, Los Angeles. The Graffiti Towers. In 2015, a Chinese development company called Oceanwide Holdings broke ground on what was supposed to be one of the most ambitious construction projects in Los Angeles history. 3 towers, over 500 luxury condominiums, a 5-star Park Hyatt hotel, a rooftop pool, private screening rooms, a dog washing facility. Yes, that was actually in the plans. The whole development was going to span an entire city block right next to the Crypto.com arena, the home of the Los Angeles Lakers. The asking price for all of it? $1 billion. By 2019, construction stopped. Oceanwide had run out of money, and from that point the towers just sat there, half-finished, empty, cranes still attached, grass growing up through abandoned construction materials. For 5 years, this billion-dollar skeleton sat rotten in the middle of one of the most expensive pieces of real estate in the country. And then, in late 2023, 3 graffiti artists broke in. They climbed the unfinished stairs of the tallest tower and spray-painted their names across the floor-to-ceiling windows. And after that, word got out. More artists came, then more. Within weeks, dozens of graffiti writers had covered 27 floors of the tower with tags, murals, and messages. One artist climbed all the way to the 48th floor. Police helicopters circled overhead while writers were still painting inside. The security firm hired to protect the site had already sued Oceanwide for not paying them, so the guards that were there weren't exactly motivated. The city of Los Angeles issued a deadline to clean up the graffiti, then another deadline. Then they voted to bill Oceanwide roughly $4 million for the cleanup and security costs, then reversed course. A local developer has since agreed to buy the site for $470 million, but whether the towers will finally be completed, demolished, or just repainted, nobody actually knows yet. 3 half-built skyscrapers covered in spray paint, standing in the middle of downtown L.A., the most visible monument to failed ambition in the entire state of California.
Entry 2. Bodie, Mono County. The Cursed Ghost Town. In 1859, a gold prospector named W.S. Bodie struck gold in the hills east of the Sierra Nevada. He never got to see what his discovery would become. He died in a blizzard that November, just months after finding the site. A sign painter later misspelled his name when labeling the town, and it just stuck. That's how you get a gold rush boom town named after a man who froze to death before it was even built. By 1879, Bodie had a population of nearly 10,000 people. It had 65 saloons along a single mile of Main Street. It had a Chinatown, a red light district, a railroad, and a reputation across all of California as the most dangerous, lawless, and violent place in the state. Shootouts and murders were so common that the phrase "bad man of Bodie" became everyday slang for someone with a terrible temper. One little girl, upon being told her family was moving to Bodie, reportedly wrote in her diary, "Goodbye, God, I'm going to Bodie." Two major fires, one in 1892, one in 1932, the second started by a child playing with matches, destroyed most of the town. By the 1940s, Bodie was fully abandoned. The last few residents locked their doors, left their belongings exactly where they were, and never came back. Today, those belongings are still there. Dishes on tables, books on shelves, bottles of medicine in the pharmacy. The whole town is preserved in what California State Parks calls a state of arrested decay, meaning they'll stop it from collapsing, but they won't restore it. They want it to look exactly the way it was left. And here is the part that really gets people. There is a curse on Bodie, or at least that's what the park rangers say. If you take anything from the site, even a pebble, you will be plagued with bad luck until you return it. The park actually receives packages in the mail, letters from people who took a bottle, a nail, a piece of broken glass, and then lost their jobs, got into car accidents, watched their relationships fall apart. The letters are full of apologies and pleas for the curse to be lifted. The rangers keep them all. Whether the curse is real or whether it's just something the rangers invented to stop people from stealing, well, that's up to you to decide.
Entry 3. The Salton Sea, Imperial County. The sea that poisoned itself. The Salton Sea exists entirely by accident. In 1905, the Colorado River burst through a broken irrigation canal and flooded a dry desert basin in Southern California for almost 2 full years. By the time engineers managed to stop it, a 35-mile-long lake had formed in the middle of the desert. And somehow, people decided this was a great place to build a resort town. By the 1950s and 60s, the Salton Sea was genuinely one of the most popular vacation destinations in all of California. More tourists visited each year than went to Yosemite National Park. The Beach Boys had a boat on the water. Frank Sinatra docked at the North Shore Yacht Club. Property developers were flying people out in light aircraft and selling them beachfront lots from the air before they'd even landed to look at them. Then the sea started to die. Surrounded by nearly 500,000 acres of farmland, decades of agricultural runoff had been quietly poisoning the water with salt, fertilizer, and pesticides. Algae bloomed and choked the oxygen out of the lake. Fish died by the tens of thousands and washed up on the beaches. During a single 4-month period in 1996, 14,000 birds died near the shoreline, nearly 10,000 of them pelicans, and their carcasses had to be burned continuously for weeks just to manage the smell. The Beach Boys left, Sinatra left, everyone left. Today, the communities along the Salton Sea's shore are some of the most abandoned in the United States. Streets that were mapped out for 25,000 residential lots now lead to nothing. Palm trees are dead stumps in the ground. Abandoned vacation homes bake in the desert sun. And the sea itself is more than 50% saltier than the Pacific Ocean, still shrinking, still toxic, with a rotten egg smell from hydrogen sulfide that the U.S. Geological Survey officially describes as objectionable, noxious, and pervasive. The worst part? As the lake dries, it exposes the lake bed, laced with arsenic, selenium, DDT, and lead. When the desert wind picks up, it carries all of that into the lungs of the 650,000 people who still live nearby. Imperial County now has some of the worst childhood asthma rates in the entire country. What Frank Sinatra once called paradise is now, in the words of one environmental official, the worst environmental and health crisis in modern California history. California has this image: sunshine, wealth, opportunity, the place where people go to start over. And all of that is true. But underneath that image, the state is full of places that didn't make it, places that were abandoned mid-sentence, places that are slowly being poisoned or buried or forgotten or covered in graffiti by the people the city itself left behind. The graffiti towers are still standing. The barrels on the ocean floor haven't moved. The ground at Bodie still holds the belongings of people who walked away 80 years ago and never came back. If you want to see more places like these, the ones that never make the travel guides, hit subscribe. New video coming every week.